we go. Peace talks with Iran are set to resume today after President Trump called off a massive strike over the weekend.
But the commander-in-chief says any agreement will depend on ending Tehran's nuclear program.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst is live in Tel Aviv with the latest. Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. President Trump calling off planned strikes against Iran as he says a deal is close. According to the president, talks will resume today aimed at finalizing an agreement on the Strait of Hormuz. Trump says he was asked by Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia to hold off as diplomatic efforts play out.
We are attacked. That would be the biggest attack since World War II. And it would have been disastrous. And they didn't want us to do it. And frankly, Saudi Arabia didn't want it either. They thought that the deal is imminent.
Overnight, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian posted to X about the memorandum of understanding that was reached earlier this year, saying in part, "I believe this memorandum will be the center of gravity for our foreign relations in the future. We must strive to compel the enemy to remain committed to what it has signed. The security of the country, the region, and our allies will be enhanced by this memorandum." Now, international focus remains on the Strait of Hormuz, where an explosion was heard this morning by a tanker, according to maritime tracking groups. Reports indicate that a new deal could see the strait opened for 60 days without fees. With the possibility of another agreement in sight, the region remains on alert since the Iranians are denying any direct progress.
We currently do not have negotiations with America. The negotiations are with Oman and are focused on reaching an understanding over a path to ensure the security of shipping passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
Here in Israel, the military remains on high alert. Officials believe the situation could change any day. Guys?
Trey, why did Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia ask Donald Trump to hold off? Is that because they fear retaliation since geographically they're close?
Yeah, exactly. They're concerned that if the United States targets Iranian energy infrastructure, that the response would mean missile fire toward gas and oil fields in the Persian Gulf. Some of these areas, like the liquefied natural gas production in Qatar, for example, or other American-linked energy infrastructure in Saudi Arabia. It's interesting, though, the Iranians today saying that these talks aren't directly taking place with the Americans. And we've seen in the past that they make these statements simply to a domestic audience. Oftentimes, they'll say one thing publicly and then something else behind the scenes at the negotiating table. Many of the officials that are actually linked to that official you heard from there, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson, have actually called President Trump directly asking for a deal. And it gives you a sense of the back and forth messages that are being exchanged behind the scenes. And we do understand the Trump administration has a direct line to Iranian officials.
So, Trey, it still looks like one of the things that continues to be a concern is the control of the strait. And I don't mean just from the traffic that is coming in and out, but the toll system. We were told when we started to get some leaks from that MOU that that did not exist in the memorandum of understanding. Well, when it came out publicly, of course, it is a part of it. And it looks like the Iranians are trying to find some type of backdoor deal, even though they plan on pausing it for 60 days to implement that system. Is that going to be a non-starter for the president?
If that is the case, it would be a non-starter for President Trump, and that's the challenging part here and why we have to remain focused on the facts of what we can gather. According to these initial reports, that 60-day window would be without tolls. The president's been very clear no one is going to toll this international waterway. And ultimately, he said if the Iranians try to toll it, the United States will toll it and be the guardians of the Strait of Hormuz. So moving forward, we have to look at the details that come out of these talks with Oman. But you saw that map there of the U.S. naval blockade, and this is really important to talk about. As this is taking place, and while the president paused these strikes against Iran, there's an ongoing U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports, and it is crippling the Iranian economy. They are losing hundreds of millions of dollars each and every day. And it's part of the reason that the Iranians are asking for a deal. They're asking for a solution here because while the president keeps the U.S. military on alert and prepared, as he describes it, locked and loaded, there is this economic component that is harming the Iranian regime, and it is forcing them back to the negotiating table.
Trey, as Ainsley pointed out, a lot of the neighbors around Iran are very nervous about what Iran might do. Where does Oman fall into that in terms of that Are they obviously, Iran says while they're not negotiating with the United States, they are negotiating with Oman. Do we have a good line with Oman? And is Oman working with American negotiators to make sure that we actually do find an avenue towards peace?
This is a great question, and I'm going to take you through a really quick, rough timeline. At the beginning, the United States was relying more on Oman before Operation Epic Fury to try and get a deal together with the Iranian regime. But as things progressed during the U.S. bombing campaign of Iran, Oman changed their position slightly, and they almost appeared more sympathetic to the Iranians. Well, the president had some tough talk for officials in Muscat when he was at a cabinet meeting at the White House, you might remember. And since that moment, Oman has actually changed their tune, and they appear to be coordinating directly with the United States to ensure that there isn't any sort of backdoor deal reached with Iran. And so we do understand the coordination is still taking place, and that the president's negotiating team is in touch with Omani officials to ensure that the Iranians aren't getting some sort of sweetheart deal here. The president wants the Strait of Hormuz open. He wants to ensure that there are no tolls on vessels passing through. But most importantly, as it relates to the Strait, that there isn't a threat against these shipping vessels that are currently trapped in the Persian Gulf, that they can freely move without the threat of missiles or drones attacking them. And then more broadly, we have this issue of Iran's nuclear program that, according to President Trump when he spoke yesterday on Air Force One, is going to be addressed as part of this broader understanding that the administration is working to reach.
All right, Trey, great job out there.
Thank you, Trey.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.